The ballot is stronger than the bullet. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is Road to Elections 2024. Joining us this evening to pose questions on to my immediate right is Theruni Karunaratne. On to my immediate left is Nadeem Majid. Our panelists this evening are Maitri Gunaratne, President's Council, General Secretary of the United National Freedom Front, as well as former Governor of the Central and Uva Province. Also joining us this evening on the show is Dr. Mahim Mendis, representing the SJB. Also joining us this evening on the show is Attorney at Law Lakmal Hemachandra, representing the NPP, as well as Sumedha Ratnayaka, representing the United Republic Front. He's also the national organizer of the party. You too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. The number to send in your messages is 076 656 5353. The number once again, 076 656 5353. Let's get the ball rolling today with Maitri Gunaratne, President's Council, also a former Governor of the Central and Uva Province, and also the General Secretary of the United National Freedom Front. Maitri, right now, there seems to be a crime spree in Sri Lanka. We saw the manner in which how individuals were murdered in broad daylight in Athrugiriya. Just 48 hours before, we saw the manner in which how an under-19 cricket captain was murdered in the south of the country. A lot of issues are cropping up in terms of crime in the country. Are we in an environment to hold an election? And what does this paint as far as elections are concerned in the mindset of the public with regard to their national security? Your time starts now.
Samir, the crime rate or the crimes which are taking place at the moment is mainly due to bad appointments in the police department, especially the IGP. Now the IGP, he has been found fault by the Supreme Court in a fundamental rights case, and he has been fined 500,000 rupees as compensation to that victim. That is one. Two, the Aragalaya which took place, when the previous IGP had given him specific instructions, having got intelligence reports that the port tour guys were going to thrash Maina Gogama and Gota Gogama, written instructions were given the previous day for him to prevent it. He never prevented it. So therefore, there was a court case, and the Attorney General, after much consideration, instructed the police to make him a suspect in that case. Now all those matters, those two cases, there were two cases, he went to the Court of Appeal and got it stayed. Now the matter is pending in the Supreme Court, and I am told that a decision is going to come one of these days. So when you appoint a person who is not competent, or who himself has been doing various illegal things to get to that place, what do you expect? And you would remember, the country would remember, as he was appointed as acting IGP, he started a program called Yuktiya. Now the police, Yuktiya has to be done by courts, not by the police. But he started it, and what was his cry? He was trying to get rid of heroin and all this. So if Yuktiya was successful, would this killing spree take place? So basically what has happened is, there is no law and order in the country. The minister is under obligation to the IGP, the minister of the police affairs. So therefore, no one can expect a safe country. But that does not mean, because there is no safety, that we should not go for an election. The election will oust all these people and bring in someone who is able to run this place and give some kind of security to the people. So therefore, elections is a must. But the authorities who appoint these people, including the Constitutional Council, must realize that they should not appoint people who are not suitable to hold those positions.
Maitri, having said that, I want to ask you a question about your party's position with regard to the 2024 presidential elections.
Yes.
Now, you started off supporting the United National Party at one point. Then you broke away from the UNP. You highly criticized the current leadership of the United National Party, that is Ranil Wickremesinghe. And then 2015, correct me if I'm wrong, 2015, you supported the good governance government of Maithripala Sirisena.
Yes.
As a result of that, you were also appointed as a former governor of the Central Annuva province.
Yes.
And then 2019, you pledged your support to Sajid Premadasa
Yes.
at the elections.
It was an alliance.
It was an alliance. Who do you support now?
We are trying to formulate a consortium of like-minded people because there is a general perception in the country that we don't want the 225. I mean, not that I agree, but there is a general perception that these 225 have wronged this country, and these political parties have been also responsible for that. So, as a result of that, Samir, I feel, and the statistics show, that there is about a 35 to 45% percentage of people who are undecided as to whom they are going to vote for at the next election.
45%.
35 to 45%. I mean, I may be wrong, but this is what I get from these various statistics. So, if these 35 to 40% do not vote, then what is going to happen is the same lot is going to be re-elected again. So, therefore, there is a need for a new consortium, like-minded people to come together and offer this 35 to 40% group an alternative.
Right. So you say a consortium of like-minded people, Maitri, but we saw such consortiums being made. Let's talk about the Vyatpaga movement.
Yeah.
That's the way in which how former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa came to the limelight. And they supported his candidature, and as a result of that, several members also got state ministerial positions and later cabinet ministerial portfolios as well. When you say like-minded people, this is just buzzwords. These are just buzzwords.
It is not a. It is okay. You can call it a buzzword. I won't disagree with you, but Samir, now, I mean, if you take yourself, when you have a private discussion, you will be criticizing, or you will be finding fault with the present system, and you will always say this has to change. New people must come in. That is the general talk. When you go and when you talk with people, they say we are fed up with these people. New people have to come in. So vis-a-vis that, that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to bring in or recruit these new people. The unfortunate thing is, Samir, good people don't want to come into politics. People who can serve this country, people who have capacity, successful people. When you mention the word politics, they take to their heels. That is the issue. If you want to change this country, all we need is 150 people, like-minded people, to come together at the next election. 150. We can change the course of this country.
So very quickly, Maitri.
Yeah.
This is what is being championed by the SJB as well as the NPP and as well as the URF at this point of time.
Yes.
So don't you want to support any political party right now?
No, because the NPP, the SJB and maybe the UNP, all of them are in parliament. They are all represented in parliament, and the general consensus is that they have all been responsible in taking this country towards bankruptcy. So therefore, my trying to support them is not going to be of any benefit to me or to the country. So even if it is a difficult and arduous task, we will have to chart our course in a way where we can offer a viable alternative to the people who have no person to vote for.
Thank you very much, President's Council, Maitri Gunaratna, leader of the United National Freedom Front as well as the former governor of the Central Lanka province. I now move my attention towards Dr. Mahim Mendis, representing the SJB. Dr. Mendis, we saw the manner in which how the Supreme Court dismissed two FR petitions that were filed recently over the tenure of the president's term in office. Whose victory is this? Is it the people's victory or is it certain political parties' victory?
Well, it is nothing but a people's victory, because the people very clearly expect elections. The people expect a fresh mandate, a new government, and there is no doubt about that. In the context of the post-Golfes Aragalaya, well, I would say the Aragalaya remains in spirit, in search of greater democracy, nothing but greater democracy. The will of the people should prevail. There is no doubt about that. Mr. Wickramasinghe should understand that extremely well. Everyone should understand that extremely well. And it is nothing but right that the people do everything possible to safeguard the right that they have to elect a new regime based on greater principles favorable to democratic, social, economic, political, cultural and moral order.
So right now, Dr. Mendis, who are the competitors that the SJB is looking at a presidential poll right now? Serious competition, because I remember in 2015 when President Mahinda Rajapaksa was questioned as to who is going to be his political opponent at the next presidential election. He said, I'm fighting boxing alone. I don't have a competition already. But little did he know that Maithripala Sirisena had hoppers the previous night and was contesting the polls next day, and he got a resounding victory at the polls. So who is going to be the competitors that the SJB is looking at in terms of a presidential poll this year?
The SJB, as you know, is the outcome of authoritarian, autocratic UNP political culture led by Ranil Wickramasinghe. If Ranil Wickramasinghe was not an authoritarian, a man who had no respect for internal party democracy, there wouldn't have been an SJB. If the UNP could safeguard its old ethos, the way they always did things. I don't mean to say that there were no blunders under Jaya Jayawardena, but the UNP as a formidable democratic alternative was undermined. Of course, I would say Jaya Jayawardena and the nephew Ranil Wickramasinghe. So, now, right now, the answer to your question is the people of this country have three alternatives. Now, we as SJB, we are a social democratic party, and no one need to ask that over and over again. Sajith Premadasa is a passionate and committed advocate of social democracy. Now, we have three alternatives, as you know. We have a Marxist, well, the NPP representative is there, a Marxist or a more Marxist alternative in the NPP, and we have a neoliberal Ranil Rajapaksa alternative that destroyed the country, not only the economy of the country, but social, as I mentioned earlier.
What is the SJB?
The social, economic, political, cultural, moral order.
Dr. Mendis, you said that
we are
the NPP
a social democratic party. We are an extremely dynamic, committed social democratic party. Our policies in any frontier we will look at from a social democratic perspective.
So very quickly, Dr. Mendis, because you spoke about your leadership and the difference in which that they would bring to the table, my question to you now is, between 2015 and 2019, your leader was a strong cabinet minister in the Yahapalne government. And if you look at the numbers, you all have approximately 40 plus individuals from the UNP who crossed over to the SJB and formed the SJB as well. So that means you all had a big say within the United National Party and the Yapane government as well. But nothing concrete took place between 2015 and 2019, and people view this era as a black mark as far as the Sri Lankan political culture is concerned. So what do you have to say to the critics that ask, if Sajith Premadasa did not do anything between 2015 and 2019, how can you expect him to do something after he becomes or after he is elected president? What
Much depends in any political party, in any democratic alternative political party. Much depends on the leader and the ideals of the leader. Very clear. Jayajavardhana was quite different from Ranasinghe Premadasa. Jayajavardhana destroyed that UNP, and we ended up with a violent insurrection. And at a time that the UNP members could not even walk in the streets, Ranasinghe Premadasa was able to revive the United National Party with a completely different ideological position. Just like that, Sajith Premadasa, as a member of the UNP and the deputy leader, I should say, never lost credibility within the UNP. If he lost credibility within the UNP, he wouldn't have been able to form his own party and challenge Ranil Wickremesinghe, the United National Party, and the elephant symbol.
Right.
And we know what happened to Ranil Wickremesinghe.
So Dr. Mendes, you spoke about Ranasinghe Premadasa. Recently, at an event, Ranil Wickremesinghe went on to say, when the impeachment motion against President Ranasinghe Premadasa was moved in the Parliament of Sri Lanka in the late 1980s, it was Ranil Wickremesinghe who stood in favor and who stood on behalf of Ranasinghe Premadasa at that time. True? False?
Absolutely correct. Ranasinghe Premadasa, a formidable leader, the most formidable leader in recent times, he was supported by
if that is the case, Dr. Bennis, you say it's true. But if that is the case, why can't the SJB and the UNP unite as a coalition and contest the upcoming elections? Is it because both parties have petty agendas to achieve?
No, we are totally different. The SJB was not the result of a personal feud between Ranil Wickremesinghe and Sajith Premadasa.
Right.
It's more than that. They did everything possible in the UNP. Ranil Wickremesinghe did everything possible at a personal level to undermine Sajith Premadasa. He was not in 2015 to 2019 regime you're talking about. And he was not even given the full housing ministry. There were so many ministers of housing. Urban housing minister, fisheries housing minister, upcountry housing minister.
Don't you think right now is the time to put all those aside and think afresh for the betterment of the country?
Right. We can think of the betterment of the country only through a viable policy framework. The neoliberal politics, when you say neoliberal politics, is a social, economic, political, cultural, moral order, as I mentioned now. I mentioned that nearly 3 times, and that is quite a serious matter for a serious political party.
Why do I get the feeling, Dr. Mendes, that it's a feud between the two leaders and not the political parties per se?
No. Neoliberal politics of Ranil Wickremesinghe and his clan, right now, well, we can say that the neoliberal politics of Ranil Wickremesinghe, extreme rightists, extreme capitalists, authoritarian tendencies of Ranil Wickremesinghe can never be tolerated within the SJB.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr.
And Sajith will never be like that.
Yeah.
And something
that very quickly.
It's not the two leaders. There are a group of people around both of them who are not allowing these people to get together. Okay. That's the reason.
So I now move my attention towards Attorney at Law Lakmali Hemachandra representing the NPP. Wow. Marxist party.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that. Dr. Mendes said it. And that brought jitters down my spine as well. Do you want to respond to that before we start the conversation, or you want to duck that question?
No. I will respond to that. So I think this categorization of social democracy, Marxism, and neoliberalism, as Dr. Mahim framed it, in terms of the political parties that we have, which he's referencing them to, is not correct. Because I would not personally, and I don't think any political economist or a sociologist or any social scientist would identify the SJB political program and the economic program as a social democratic economic program. I think it's very similar to what he calls an extreme right-wing program of Ranil Wickremesinghe, and it's largely the same program. So if you look at what Mr. Wickremesinghe is implementing, that's largely the IMF program. And if you look at the blueprint 2.0 that SJB debuted last year, that is also very similar to the IMF program, and they very openly and expressly subscribe to the market economy ideology, which is the core of neoliberal economic principles, right? The doctrine. So I wouldn't really recognize SJB as a social democratic party, first of all. I agree that Ranil Wickremesinghe is a neoliberal, and I do think that in spite of what Mr. Premadasa is trying to portray himself to be as some kind of a philanthropist, SJB is also at its core is a neoliberal political party. So once you identify those two parties as the same economic program, I think this placement of NPP as a Marxist political party, Marxism is a very, it has its place in history. It had played a very important role in history, and to this date it is studied in universities. I'm coming from a legal background, we have a Marxist legal doctrine as well. So we don't have to stigmatize political ideas when we talk about them. But NPP is not a strictly Marxist political party. I wouldn't say not even close to a Marxist political party.
Is JVP like that?
It depends. The way I understand Marxism is different. So as somebody who has...
very simple.
You
say that the NPP is not.
Yeah.
But do you think the JVP
does identify as a Marxist political party? Yes.
So don't you think, if you look at the NPP, the NPP encompasses more members of the JVP, and as such, for someone who's looking from outside, they may view it as a party that is, the ideologies of majority of the people would be of the JVP, and you say that the JVP is a Marxist party. As such, don't you think that the NPP invariably becomes a Marxist party as a result of that? What Dr. Mendes is saying is true.
So I think a political party should be recognized according to the political program and the economic program that they present to the public, right? So I wouldn't really recognize the NPP economic program as even remotely Marxist in terms of the economic reforms that they are proposing. Marxist economic reforms are extensively
but you just said that the JVP is a Marxist party.
I'm talking about the NPP.
You're talking about the NPP?
I'm talking about the NPP, which I'm not. I'm representing the NPP.
Okay,
I'm
right.
not representing the JVP.
But JVP is no more in the picture, is it?
It is in the picture, but it is not the only deciding factor inside the NPP.
So aren't they the most powerful party in the NPP?
It is, yes.
So isn't that the ideologies of the JVP that is being boiled down?
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Just because JVP is the most dominant party inside the NPP, that doesn't mean that NPP has the same viewpoint of
Understood.
JVP.
So tell us, Lakmali, who is the common enemy? Because at the 2015 elections, the common enemy at that election, at least as journalists at that time, how I viewed it was, I remember Maitri Gunaratne was on the show at those times, and he was saying that the common enemy right now was Mahinda Rajapaksa. Everyone has to rally around that, because we can't give a third term to a dictatorial rule in the country as a result of that. I know Andrew Kumar Dissanayake was representing the JVP at that time. You say that they are the most dominant party in the NPP as well, despite the fact that the Andrew Kumar Dissanayake faction did not openly support the candidature of Maithripala Sirisena. They somewhat supported the candidature of Maithripala Sirisena. But now my question to you is very simple. Is there a common enemy at the 2024 presidential election, if
Yeah.
that is the case, who is that common enemy?
I think more than one political party, the common enemy is a certain political culture and a certain economic reform program that we have been carrying out for the past few years, right? So whoever is in support of those reforms and that political culture will be the common enemy. And
So there are no individuals. It's not either Sajid Premadas or Ranil Wickremesinghe or no, nothing of that sort.
I don't think we have to go down that lane, because
But
as I said, those two political parties and those two individuals, in spite of the differences that they claim to have, are essentially subscribing to the same political culture and the same economic reform program. So I don't see a big difference between the
So
two
why
parties.
I'm asking this question, Lakmali? Why I'm asking this question? I in fact asked this question from Chaturanga, who was here on the show a couple of months ago. If the common enemy right now is the ruling party, which is usually the case in a democracy because all the opposition parties get together, why can't the SJB and the NPP unite at a future presidential election? There's no way.
As I told you, I mean, Chaturanga also must have told you the same thing. I don't think SJB and NPP have close economic programs. It's vastly different. Most of the programs are vastly different. The way we look at the state, the way we look at the role of the market in the economy, the way we look at women, children, everything. I think everything is very different.
Right. Now
So
my
we
second
don't-
question to you is,
Yeah.
if that is the case, because we know Anand Kumar Dissanayake supported the proposal put forward by Ranil Wickremesinghe as Maithripala Sirisena to be the common candidate at the 2015 election,
He didn't support it.
but we all know what happened at the 2015
He
elections.
didn't support it. They didn't contest the election.
No, but we know they didn't contest, but
Yeah.
invariably they supported because there were only two main political parties who were contesting at that election. Let me remind you, it was President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Maithripala
Yeah,
Sirisena.
sure, yeah.
Right. So, at this election, do you think that Ranil Wickremesinghe and Anand Kumar Dissanayake will join hands?
Why would you say that?
I'm asking.
I want to know, why would you say that?
No, because
What is the rationale for that question?
because a lot of people say that they are friends. If you look at the social media
A
platforms,
lot
if
of
you look
people
at the
say a lot
gossip,
of things. Anand Kumar Dissanayake
they're
and
not
Ranil-
friends, is it?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't think Anand
But
Kumar
you
Dissanayake.
don't see a alliance brewing between the two.
I mean, if we can't come into an alliance with SJB, who is in the opposition, how on earth can we come into an alliance with Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has been destroying every social fabric of this country for the last
so that's
few years?
ruled out.
Definitely. That's not even, I mean, that's just that's a slander against NPP, I would say.
Right. It's better to get it out of the
Yeah,
horse's
sure.
mouth rather than assuming. Thank you very much, Attorney at Law. Lakmali Hemachandra representing the NPP. I now move my attention towards Sumedh Ratnaik, a national organizer of the United Republic Front. Sumedh, how far is it true that your leader is partly Champikiranamaka, right?
Yeah.
How far is that claim true that he went behind a certain political party, requesting them to appoint him as their presidential candidate?
You mean? Are you asking whether it is correct?
I'm asking you, has your leader,
No.
in your
it's not.
opinion, gone to any political party in Sri Lanka with a begging bowl asking to be appointed as a common candidate?
No, it's a story created by the present government. I think this faction, President and his team.
It's not true.
It's not true.
So there is no basis to it.
No basis.
So he's not even planned to contest the elections if there is a presidential election in a few months' time.
No, we have not decided it. Actually, we have prepared a program, for an action plan for the betterment of this country. I think whichever the parties come to power, we have to think about the country because by 2028 we have to start paying loans back. Anyone who comes to power has to do that because this President Ranil Wickremesinghe is going to sign the agreements with the ISB holders. So I think no any government can reject it or reverse it, right? So we have a period of 3 to 4 years without paying loans. So I think we are getting a good opportunity as a country, and we have to revive our economy. And by 2028, we have to be in a position to start paying these loans. So we have prepared a program, economic program, and we are discussing it with SJB, and we have forwarded it to government side presidents, and even we had discussions with Malima also.
But do you think, Sumedha, y'all are a formidable force in the political culture of the country, because put together the number of preferential votes cast by the members of the United Republican Front while contesting the SJB has been very, very paltry. We are not even talking about 1% of the total votes cast.
But things are changing,
can be a formidable force?
Now it is totally different, no? Now the country is a bankrupt country, and the political system is totally changed, right? So we can't actually completely relying on the previous results, right?
But looking
I
at
think it will be in the coming elections, decisions taken by the people will be too much different.
So
you can see what happened in Thailand and what happened in France. Thailand, they voted a new party, completely new party, right?
So if you look at it, Sumedha, even for you all to form an alliance, which political party are you looking at? Because I see your leader criticizing Sajid Premadasa in many platforms. It seems that your party leadership does not align with the policies of the NPP as well. If that's the case, the only option available for Party Champika Ranawaka is either the SLPP or the UNP.
No. I think as our leader, Partly Champika, he's not having any personal grudges with the Sajid Premadasa.
No, even Sarath
these are
would say the same
policies.
thing.
Yeah.
Even
These are
Sarath
not
would say
personal
the same
things,
thing.
right?
He also does not have a personal grudge against Sajid Premadasa, but we all know that they can't see eye to eye now.
We are talking about meritocracy, right? A lot of things, right? But at the moment, we are mainly concentrating on our program, our action plan.
So let
if
me ask
they
you,
agree with us to go ahead with that program, then we are ready to form an alliance.
So this has always been brewing in my mind as well, Sumedha, for a long time. So I'm going to pose this question to you, because you are representing the United Republic Front and your leader is partly Champika Ranawaka.
Yeah.
If you look at the past, you have to carry that baggage as well, unfortunately. Look at the past. Partly Champika Ranawaka has always championed a nationalistic rhetoric, which has somewhat been anti-minorities. Has he changed now?
Yeah.
He has changed.
Yeah. You know,
how has it changed?
At the 2005, people of this country wanted to defeat LTT, right? So they voted for Mahinda Rajapaksa. That was the requirement at that moment.
So you agree?
So even JVP supported it, and JHU supported it, and by 2009 we won the war. So that decision is correct, I think. That cannot be taken as anti-minority. It is anti-LTT, anti-terrorism, like that.
So you agree he was against the minorities at one point?
No, it's not against minority. That's what I'm telling. It's against terrorism, right? Even his
position in 2014 when the Aludgam incident took place was not that clear. Do you remember?
I don't think so. What about the Aludgam incident? You mean his position in his
the Darga town matter where there was...
No, he was against that. He was against that incident.
Right. Thank you very much, Sumedha Ratnayaka, National Organizer of the URF. No plans to join hands with the SJB or the NPP?
No, we are having discussions actually. If this discussion succeeds, we will form alliance. But it's not decided yet.
Right. Thank you very much, Sumedha Ratnayaka. I now move my questions for our journalists. On to my immediate right is Theruni Karunaratne. On to my immediate left is Nadeem Majid. Nadeem, I have to give an opportunity to Theruni because she's the only girl in the journalism panel today. So we'll start off with Theruni. Theruni, all yours.
I'd like to start off with directing my first question to Dr. Mahim. I'd like to shift your attention to the recent results of the Mood of the Nation survey by Verita Research, where we saw that the approval of the people towards the government has risen to 24%. What do you have to say about this statistical increase? Would you say that the momentum of, the force against the previous government and anyone who was affiliated with those people, do you think that momentum has gone down in any way? What do you have to say?
With regard to survey results concerning public opinion formation, how it is shifting from, fluctuates. Personally, I do not have much regard, because credibility of, at the end of the day, well, some of those institutions have a reputation.
Dr. Mendes, members of your party have quoted this very survey in the past when the results have been different.
They all quote, when they quote.
No, when the results have been different, you all have no problem.
What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we know very well that this government has absolutely no credibility, and there is no reason for people of this country, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, ordinary people of the country or whatever the elites, have no reason to respect a man like Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has no business, really speaking, not qualified to be even in parliament. He's a man who grabbed power due to a flawed constitutional, culture and provision, right? People just like his other two supporters, Manusha Nanayakara and Harin Fernando, who were elected by the SJB, crossing over to the other side. Well, these flawed realities made him become the president. But he's a man who has grabbed power and made a mockery of the dignity of the people. Dignity of the people. Dignity and the dignity of the nation undermined. Whatever the polls say, I have absolutely no regard for the outcome of those polls, because at the ground level, I don't see why anyone should be respecting a man who has grabbed power and made a mockery of the democratic process.
So, Dr. Mendes, since there is no UNP representative on the panel here, I'll play devil's advocate. Do you disagree with the position that many people, as reflected in the findings of this survey, that many people are maybe coming to, maybe it's good campaigning. Do you disagree with the position that people are better off now than they were in July 9, 2022 under the SLPP government under the Rajapaksa administration? And shouldn't some degree of the credit for that recovery go to Ranil Wickremesinghe?
What is this recovery we are talking about? From 2019 to 2024, take myself as a university academic. I'm in my 38th year of university service, working for the Open University, and we are taxed 36% of our salaries, right? We're basically, rendered useless. You know what happens if people who have...
But Dr. Mendes, part of the reason we're in this situation is because people were not being taxed. It's a hard pill to swallow, but tax is a reality of life.
Yes.
There are two things in life that are certain, taxes and debt.
People. I was one of the principal petitioners of the Supreme Court case against Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Basil Rajapaksa, and 36 other people. And we won that case on the 14th of November. Yeah. Supreme Court Fundamental Rights Case 195 of 2022. And we know that the country knows very well as to who is responsible for flawed decision making and who made a misery of the lives of the people. And how can a person with any sense of respectability admit what you say, whatever you say in good faith, that there is a positive change in the mood of the people or the dignity of the people, that there's hopefulness, when the very fellows who have bankrupted the nation, made the people poor, and the dignity of the nation
But Dr.
undermined.
Dennis, I'm not saying this. This is the same people who
Right,
2
okay.
years ago
Whoever-
had
whoever who says
Gotabaya
that,
Rajapaksa
right,
2% approval rating, are now giving a higher
How
rating.
can anyone
It's
in
the
the
people.
right mind say that Ranil Wickremesinghe has brought
So what you're saying
progress
is
to the nation?
So what you're saying is the people who are
We are
saying these
poorer.
things, the people who are being surveyed and who are saying these things are not in their right mind.
Well, you can say that they have not been enlightened enough.
So
progressive
let's
enough,
ask Maitri, who,
principled
yeah, but
enough
let's ask
in saying
Maitri.
that.
Let's ask Maitri, who's championing the like-minded community. Maitri, do you agree with Dr. Dennis's thoughts?
No. No, what I must say is, you must give the devil his due. From 22 to date, Ranil Wickremesinghe has done some good. I mean, you can't say he has not done good at all. There is some credit you have to give him. And the other thing is, with that, there are certain things which he has done, which is also we cannot accept and approve. But with regard to the economy and the stability of the economy, we must say that there is positive things he has done.
So Mr. Gururatna, I'm going to play devil's advocate for the other side now.
Yeah, please.
The issue is, even with, let's say, economic stability, the opinion amongst a growing percentage of not just domestic but also around the world economists is that this is a very temporary recovery, what we're seeing right now. In fact, in a recent article on the Council of Foreign Relations, an economist, Brad Setzer, had said that there is a high likelihood of Sri Lanka redefaulting between 2029 and 2034. And that's because the IMF has been very generous with the targets it has given to the government, and that these macro-linked bonds are not actually macro-linked, and therefore we are looking at down the barrel of the gun without even realizing that we're looking down the barrel of the gun. So do you feel that what Mr. Wickremesinghe has done, while you say we must give the devil his due, do you feel that what the president has done is essentially set up a recovery room for the SLPP?
Not a recovery room for the SLPP, it is a recovery room for the country as a whole. One thing he is not doing is, he is not getting the production lines or the country to produce more, and the industrial sector to develop more, export sector to develop more. Those are the shortfalls in his whole affair. He knows what needs to be done, but unfortunately he doesn't have a team who can do it. That is his problem. So if he within these 3 years, if we can get if as a country, if we can produce more, export more, do a lot of import substitution, then I would feel that we will be able to meet the IMF.
The thing is, Mr. Gururatna, setting up industries is not an overnight issue.
No,
so what you're
at
talking
least,
about, industrialization, is a lot of what the NPP is saying as well.
At least help the present industries. Now you take the SME sector. The SME sector has completely collapsed. So if this government is serious in trying to get the economy revived, then they will get some kind of funding, either through the IMF or through some other funding, to revive the SME sector. Because the SME sector can bring in about another 2-3 million jobs and so much more production.
But what I'm saying is the timeline that you're giving. Say even the President Ranasinghe Premadasa's drive on the apparel industry and industrialization in those sectors, they didn't really show dividends during his term of office, right? Those dividends really came to light much later. So come May 1993, when President Premadasa was assassinated, the dividends of those policy decisions that had been taken, especially with regard to the apparel sector, hadn't really come to fruition yet. There was some starting.
No,
This timeline that I'm talking about, because it's 2020, we're almost halfway through 2024, 2025 will be here, and we're at risk of default within the next
3 years.
Basically, within the next 3 years. We're
3.5
looking
years
at
it's a very long time for you if you want to revive the economy.
Can you
within 3.5 years you can do it. Within 2 years you can do it. You can do it. The problem is there is no will to do it.
So it seems, so on that note, actually, I want to talk to Lakmali because it looks like your policies are aligned there.
No, with the
Because what Mr. Puranta is
NPP,
saying
we
is
have
based
not,
on the
there is, with the NPP, not the JVP. Because in the NPP and the JVP, it's like chalk and cheese. NPP policies and our policies, there is not much of a
So
difference.
a question that a lot of people
I must
have
say that.
with regard to the
economic
NPP
policies?
is that
Not the
policies-
economic, the thinking patterns and the economic policies, some we have similar.
So you were saying, Mike, before when Mahim was giving his opening remarks, you said that several individuals within these two groups, the SJB and the UNP, don't want the two leaders to get together.
Get together.
Who?
I can't mention names because all of them are my friends.
Ayo. Hello, So Rajasthan flag is right now, Mike.
No, that doesn't serve any purpose. But there are two groups of people who don't want these two leaders to get together. It's simple as that.
So, Lakmali, a question that a lot of people have with regard to the NPP is, where is the policy? Because the NPP says we have this, we have steps that we can take for rapid industrialization, whether it's on tax revenue. But when you ask for specifics, that's when your party members, leaders tend to trip up. Even on the anti-corruption drive, right? You ask, okay, if you are pro-transparency and accountability, then why is it that none of the NPP members, why is it that they are the only party that has taken a decision at the top level to not make their asset declarations public? So these kind of questions really, they give mixed signals to the public. Where are the specifics of the NPP policy?
So I think specifics in terms of certain policies will be outlined very soon, because we are trying to conclude those, come into conclusive decisions about those policies, fine tune some of them. In terms of the economic program and industrialization that you were talking about earlier, yes, NPP is in favor of industrialization, but as you rightly said, industrialization is not it can't be done overnight. It is definitely a must. We have to do it. I mean, any country that has developed within the last 60 years has taken steps towards industrialization. And the countries that some of these, economists and politicians give out as, let's say Singapore or, even Dubai or whatever, those are exceptions, they're not the rule. The rule is that you need industrialization in the country, right? So we do believe that's a step that we have to take it forward. And the apparel industry that you were talking about, President Premadas has set up. Yes, it did have dividends. It did have dividends for a certain time, but now we see that it's not sustainable anymore. It is failing, and it is in a crisis as we speak, as somebody who's working very closely with workers in the apparel industry. So it's not sustainable. It is in a crisis, right? So we
But do you know, Lakmani, I want to break this question down that Nadeem posed to you, so it's very easy for us to understand. So you spoke about the industrialization. I have a follow-up question for that. What about making asset declarations public?
Who, mine?
Not yours, but members of the NPP who are already in parliament.
I think I'm not sure why they are not doing it. To be honest, I'm not sure why they're not doing it. But I don't think it's a really drastic step to take. Also,
because
I think it should be done.
We had someone from Verity Research on the show.
Not to have the asset declaration.
No, not to make it publicly disclosed.
Yeah. But we had a member of Verity Research.
To be fair, none of the NPP members in the parliament have any allegations of corruption or fraud against them, right? So I think this over scrutiny of NPP members in the parliament when they have zero allegations against them.
It's not over scrutiny, because the reason is, across the board, we've had members of other parties. Not at the party level, there hasn't been any decision making. I think the only mention of it was in Sajid Premdas's manifesto. He said that he would make it compulsory for all his cabinet ministers to make it public. But all across the board in Parliament, whether it's from the TNA, from the SLMC, from the UNP, there have been individual members who have unilaterally decided to make it public. My issue is that the NPP, the JVP, then in the previous Parliament and the NPP now, is the only party that seems to have taken a decision at the Politburo level not to make it public.
I'm not sure whether there's a Politburo level decision
No, that is
of...
what...
That is not the NPP, not the NPP Politburo, JVP Politburo.
Well, that is...
Well, I'm not sure whether there's a Politburo level decision about not
that is what
declaring
members,
assets.
including Dr. Harni Amarasuriya and Mr. Sunil Handuneti, have said in the past.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute.
Sure. My point is, I mean, to get back to what you're saying, my point is that Dr. Harni Amarasuriya or Anukumar Disanayaka or Vijay or none of these members of the Parliament have any allegations of corruption.
But then, if they are not willing to make, even including some of the people who have made it public, they have no allegations.
No, that's the very reason they should make it public.
So if they are not making it public, that then seems to indicate, especially to anti-corruption activists, that seems to indicate what are they hiding? If there are no allegations, then why not make it public?
I mean, you should ask them.
I have asked them repeatedly, and they keep saying it's just a show.
I mean, personally, I don't think there's any problem in declaring anything in public, right? I mean, if you ask me, I'm willing to declare.
So Lakshman, just to get some clarity on what you said, you said that you work with apparel sector workers very closely. Yeah. In your opinion, why do you think the apparel sector is fading in Sri Lanka now?
The workers?
Not the workers, but the apparel industry. Because you all always...
I think there could be several reasons, right? So apparel sector in Sri Lanka, I feel, has failed to streamline productivity. Like the productivity of the sector is very, very low. And that is due to several reasons. That is due to the economic climate of the country, the political culture of the country, and maybe the education, system of the country. There are so many reasons, right? But I think there has not been any proper policy-driven decision-making on the apparel sector to increase productivity.
Right. So let's talk about the NPP. What would the NPP do? I know you're not an economist, and it's not fair for me to ask you a question about this. But because you said the apparel sector is not sustainable, I'm posing this question to you. Because what would be the alternative if your government comes into power? What would be the way forward? Are you all saying that the apparel sector should close down?
No, that's not what I said. Okay. What I said was the apparel industry, which has been in this country. If you look at the apparel industries of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, Cambodia, Vietnam, right? Some of these countries have started apparel industries much later than us. And we do not see the same growth in our industry. We see Bangladesh, which started much later than us,
doing far more better.
Yeah, they're doing far more better than Sri Lankan industry.
No, but why do you think that?
But the issue there again is because just to agree, one could argue that the reason that Bangladesh is doing far better is because in Bangladeshi factories, workers' rights mean nothing.
There's nothing. That's precisely the reason,
right?
That's not true. If you look at the Bangladesh,
constantly catching on fire,
and the power.
There's a very high death rate.
We have outpriced our power.
Let's listen to Maitri. Maitri, you want to add something?
No, I want. Why our apparel sector is not being is fading away is because we are not competitive. Our power, the cost of power is very high.
Yeah, exactly.
Cost of labor is very high, and I wouldn't say output is low, because the garment industry, the guys who run the garment industry know how to get the output, but basically our cost of power and other infrastructure costs are high. That is why we are being and labor laws are strict.
No, that's not true.
So therefore there is a massive incentive for them to go to countries like Bangladesh, to go to countries like Vietnam, because they are emerging economies. So they just want these countries to come and give some kind of employment to them, whereas we are past that stage.
Yeah. So
to respond to Mr. Maitri, I would say that this idea that labor laws in Sri Lanka are strict, and that cost of labor, because the idea that labor laws are strict and archaic, and that our labor is costlier than the rest of the world, is absolutely not true. If you look at the Bangladeshi minimum wage, that's something close to 120 USD, whereas Sri Lankan minimum wage is below 50 USD. In the whole region, in the whole of Asian region, Sri Lanka is the lowest paid country in terms of labor, right? But we do have the highest electricity cost. We do have a huge fuel bill, right? So we have costs that are not necessarily labor. And if you look at the garment sector, labor laws, I mean, that's a joke in the garment sector.
Sorry,
right?
let me just
No,
clarify.
nothing.
Are you saying
There is no
that, are you
strict
saying that factory
implementation of
workers in
labor laws.
Bangladesh are being paid more than factory
Yes.
workers in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, sure. Sure. If you look at the minimum
absolutely
wages,
certain about that?
Yeah.
No, not talking about certified. I'm talking about real pay, actual pay. Factory workers in Sri
I'm
Lanka are
looking
being
at-
paid less than factory workers in Bangladesh.
I'm looking at the minimum wages in Sri Lanka
No, I'm
and
not talking about the declared
Bangladesh.
minimum. I'm
No
talking
one is
about
paying
actual
minimum wages
money,
to factory
because
workers
nobody is
here.
paying minimum wage.
No one is paying minimum wages to factory workers. You can't get
Actually,
for minimum
in
wages.
like real world,
Yeah.
real
You
world
can't.
pay,
No, you
regardless of what the government approved minimum
So
wage
that's
is.
the law, right? That is what we are
but that's
complaining
not the
about.
amount. That's not the amount that people are being paid, right? People are being paid way more than.
Slightly above that. Yeah.
No, nothing.
But you're saying that they're being paid less than factory workers in Bangladesh.
What I'm
I don't
saying
think
is-
that's
No, no.
accurate.
I'm saying
that's
what
not
I'm saying
accurate,
is
because
what
a
I'm saying
factory
is
worker-
what I'm saying is if you look at the minimum wages of Sri Lanka and Bangladesh.
No, you can't look at the minimum
No,
wage, man.
let me finish, Mr. Madhu. If you look at the which is the law, which is the archaic strict law that we are talking about, right? We have a much lower basis, much lower starting point in terms of wages stipulated by the law. Stipulated,
we
and
need
if
to
you look at the
increase the
union
minimum wage.
density of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka in terms of the garment sector, Bangladesh has a massive trade union movement in the garment sector, right? Whereas in Sri Lanka, you find hardly there is no union. There are no unions in the
Right.
garment
So
sector.
I just want to ask Sumedh, you want to add something to that, Sumedh?
Yeah, actually, mainly this power, cost of power is very high in Sri Lanka. That is because of this increase of power tariffs, most of the factories went abroad.
No, but there's good news now. The plan to bring down the.
Yeah, but already factories are gone.
I think to that we should also add,
They are gone now. Right?
no, we should also add that most of our material, the input to the industry, is actually imported, right? So that is a heavy cost. We don't have domestically sourcing industries in Sri Lanka. So that is something that we need to look at. How do
But Lakman,
we
just
do
to add to that, I come from an export background. As right now, what is affecting the export sector in Sri Lanka is the uncertainty of the US dollar.
Yeah.
Because you quote at 324 and then when you get at 292,
Yeah.
if you do $4 million worth of business, you're making on the trot 40 million, 400 million loss on the trot before you even start paying your fixed cost. So that is the biggest problem right now for the export sector in the country.
And you have
Yes,
to think
Sumedh, yeah.
about the innovation also. You take mass holdings, right? These people are doing well and they are exporting to niche markets, and we are the exporters to US market. I think we
Yeah,
are
but I must say,
exporting
Mr.
60%.
Mehta,
falling, it has been consistently falling.
when you look at the apparel sector in Sri Lanka, there are some big companies who are doing extremely well.
Yeah, there are.
Like
there
you
are.
just
That's
mentioned
right.
one
That's
company
right.
now, and that
Yeah.
company is the
And this Trump
innovation
and the-
hub for Nike. In
Nike,
world
they
over.
are
So they
supplying,
also
right?
these companies have
this
have,
most of these
businesses overseas as
small scale factory owners, they are not thinking about the innovation and increasing productivity and increasing quality.
But if you look at
So
MAS,
you
they
have
are
to
working right
concentrate
now
on
with
these
fintech
factors.
and all that.
Mr. Ratnakar, I'd actually like to come now. With the Republic Front, we know that, for example, your party leader, having formerly been the Minister of Megapolis and then previously Power and Energy, he has some experience in these areas, but he's also spoken about as far as taxation is involved, the problems not just with taxation policy, but with actual collection.
Yeah.
And that there are massive shortfalls in collection on the part of the Inland Revenue Department. Now, overall, with the URF, when you look at your policies, the call to have massive investments in public transport, are these realistic for a bankrupt country that is potentially looking at redefaulting in 3.5 years?
You mean
Can like
The
I understand
LRT
the
and
need.
those
I
things.
understand the need for it. Massive investment in public transport necessary. In power and energy infrastructure, it's necessary. But how do we plan to afford it?
No, actually, we have to rethink about it. I mean, at the time of in 2018 and 2019, we were almost ready to award the construction contracts. Actually, all the tender documents are prepared, and then we had to issue these documents of calling tenders for the construction of the LRT. And then this President Gotabaya Rajapaksa came and stopped it, right? Then country gone bankrupt. So now the environment is different, economy is different. So, I know what Japan has told while agreeing for this bilateral agreement for repayments of the loans. They are going to fund only for the Katunayaka airport expansion project, right? And they want to do the feasibility studies again for this LRT and other investments. So we are in the favor of this LRT and those things. I mean, transport sector improvements. We know these are the only solutions for the transport sector in the country.
No, I know
but
you said that your
the
focus
economics
right
are
now.
different now. No?
Yeah, you said your focus right now when it comes to forming alliances with the other parties, whether it's the SJB or the NPP or the president. You said that your focus is on your action plan. My question is your action plan affordable? Can the country afford it?
Yeah, affordable.
But how?
Affordable.
Because when
I mean,
I think
it's not,
about, when I think
it's not
about
only the LRT.
The question,
right?
just let
that
him
our,
answer, yes.
our action plan is not only about transport sector. No, we are talking about the agriculture sector, right? Agriculture sector, we think we can reform it without expanding these
spending
areas,
money. You need
right?
to spend money to
without
improve.
spending a lot of money.
You need to spend money. So you spend it in 2 years. You can start the recovery process within 2.5
in
3
Sri
years.
Lanka,
But you have to be serious.
in Sri Lanka, Maitri, productivity is very low in paddy, right? We produce only 4,500 kilograms per hectare, but it is in Thailand, it is 9,000, right? So we have to do research and increase it. It's very easy, not difficult. And in Sri Lanka, per coconut tree, we produce only 60.
Per year.
Per year, right? But if you go to Kerala in India, they produce 140, right? So we can double our production.
No, these were all as a result of banning of fertilizer and things like that for 2 years. They completely knocked out the agricultural sector. So now any government coming into power or any government running this country will have to address those issues and see that the productivity is increased. That's what I'm saying. Right? Productivity has to be increased. If you are not going to increase the productivity, forget about paying the loans, we are going to default. But just because we don't have a plan, that doesn't mean, I mean, you have to come and you have to just wait.
Yeah, because of this fertilizer issue, our tea production has gone down. At the same time, in 2022, Kenyan president gave a subsidiary to these Kenyan tea producers, right? Their production increased.
Yeah. So, Dr. Mendes,
we can solve these problems.
So, Dr. Mendes, I just want to drag your attention to a remark that was made by Lakmali in her opening remarks. She said that your policies are no different than the policies of the United National Party. In my opinion, she was trying to portray the SJB as a fox in sheep's clothing.
When someone says
He called
that
it
the
fox.
UNP policies are no different to the SJB policies, SJB and the UNP believe in the same policy, you have to very concretely substantiate, you see, with examples what it is.
So, Lakmal, you can...
When you say no, I have to first answer this question.
Yeah, of course.
Now,
Of course.
as a Social Democratic Party, we, unlike the NPP and the JVP, which looks like two totally different entities, we firmly believe, as a Social Democratic Party, we believe in a dynamic industry, we believe in a dynamic private sector, we believe in reviving the government sector under the state. The government and the private sectors will be given the dignity it deserves. This is all what happened even during President Ranasinghe Premadasa's time. And as a Social Democratic Party, well, we know very clearly, the people know very clearly, we believe in capitalist principles to generate wealth. We need capitalist principles to generate wealth. Are we shy to say that? And we believe socialist principles to redistribute wealth. Redistribution of wealth is a major factor in the SJB policy and certainly not a policy that is well pleasing to neoliberal capitalist Wickramasinghe regime.
If you simply put it, Dr. Mendes, what you're trying to say is you all are a bit like the UNP, a bit like the NPP, and you all have a bit of your own policies also.
When we say we are a social democratic party, very clearly, right? We are not. Well,
salad.
We very clearly believe. You know what social democracy is all about. We believe in social justice.
Yeah. So let's ask
equality.
Yeah, Lakmal,
equity.
You pointed the finger directly at Dr. Mendes on this, saying that their policies are very similar to the UNP as such. They should not be elected to power, and you all should be elected to power instead. And he said that give us an example why you all say this.
So, I mean,
it's your time to now give us an example and prove Dr. Mendes wrong, and let the viewers decide with that's a good enough answer.
So I think the main, if you look at social democracy, the idea of social democracy is that society has more dominance over the market, right? The market drive in an economy, right? But if you look at what people like Harshadi Silva and Wickramaratne, the Economic Council of the SJB, what they openly say is they believe that market will drive the economy. I think this is a clear indicator of whether SJB is a social democratic, because social democratic economies, in social democratic economies, there is an understanding that the market cannot drive the economy, right? There is a certain element that is the state has to play. It's a massive role that the state plays. It's not just in terms of welfare. It's in terms of ownership of production forces. It's in terms of how the state invests in the country. It's in it's the expenditure, the education, transportation, healthcare. How does the state get involved? We don't see that in the SJB policy, right?
So
to be very concrete. To be very concrete.
Yeah, Lakmal, you have to be very concrete because he asked.
Am I to respond to this?
No.
Yeah,
Wait, I did not
that
conclude.
was a very elaborative answer which was not leading anywhere.
I will get into. Let me conclude.
Yeah, of course.
So,
yes.
if you look at the response that SJB has given to privatization, which is a massive component of neoliberalism, right? So, if you look at how they have responded to restructuring of state corporations, institutions, and if you look at their own blueprint and the message they give on trade liberalization, they believe in complete liberalization of trade. This is neoliberalism. UNP also believes in complete liberalization.
Not wrong, Dr. Mendes.
We do not believe in complete liberalization of state.
So not wrong.
Trade.
Your 2.0 economic
NPP policies and our policies are similar.
I have
Very
not read your policies.
Very clearly, we have to understand whether it means Scandinavian countries, which are very dynamic social democratic states, or in the Commonwealth, or in United Kingdom as it is now with the Labour Party. Well, the social democratic regimes believe in a dynamic private sector. Is it strange to the NPP that
that's
the
not what I
social
said.
democratic parties believe in a dynamic private sector?
I think
but
Dr.
what do we
Mahim,
do with the private sector?
to be fair, Dr. Mahim also has to answer my position, right? I did not say that NPP does not believe in the private sector. Any economy would have a private sector. That is so obvious, right? What I'm saying is...
we saw Dr. Mendes in defense of Lakmali. We saw the the NPP leaders going to India and even agreeing to privatize.
No, that did not happen.
No, that did
I
not
think
happen,
you just made it up.
No, but you all went and...
No, that did not happen. We had a discussion with a few people.
Yeah,
that
you all
did not
had, at least you all are open to it now.
No.
So you all are not even open to
Open
that.
to which privatization?
Privatization. So you all are not open to privatization at all.
Of what? You have to tell me
State
of what?
resources.
State
Of what
resources.
state resources? State resources are various. And
So let's
depend.
let's take Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka Insurance or Sri Lanka
Why
Telecom.
would you privatize Sri Lanka Insurance? It's a profit-making institution.
Sri Lankan Airlines for that matter. What's the position
I
of
mean,
the
Sri
NPP?
Lankan Airlines, you have to first look at whether we can actually make profits out of it. I mean, nobody is buying Sri Lankan. Even if we want to privatize it, who's buying it now? Mr. Vikram Singh has been trying to
You
sell
tell
it for
me,
the last 2
Lakmali,
years.
with your experience,
So
who would no,
I need to do justice to my
I will give you an opportunity. But Lakmali, with your opinion and with your experience, tell me which private sector company in the world will buy out a loss-making entity anywhere in the world.
So you are suggesting to privatize Sri Lankan Airlines. What I'm saying,
No, I'm saying
that you can't privatize it,
I am
even
not saying.
if you want to.
No, so let's say if you want, do you believe that the government should be in private sector business, yes or no?
What is
Must the
private?
government be in business?
I don't think, Shamir, right? Shamir?
Yeah, Shamir, yes.
I don't think that government should monopolize certain industries.
No, let's
right?
take Hilton for an example.
Hilton
Let's
is a
take
state sector.
Walters Edge for an example. So you're
Owned
saying
by the state.
government must engage in that business.
Is Hilton loss making?
No, I'm
is
asking a very simple question.
I mean, why do you not want the government to be involved in Hilton and Waters Edge if I ask you the question right back
Right,
at
so let's take Grand Hyatt for an example. Do you know the story?
you? No, I mean, I'm asking
No,
about...
I'm asking you. So Grand
about-
Hyatt is
you gave me
also
too specific.
So Grand Hyatt is
Now you're-
also
you're
state
detracting
resources. No, Grand Hyatt is also a hotel.
So you gave
That
me
was-
Hilton.
Yeah. So
Should
let's
Grand
get
Hyatt-
Grand
The
Hyatt
government
also.
should not be involved in business because of the
No, must the government-
increase in discretionary
Nothing.
power, because of the risk of corruption, because of the risk of because
No,
of
so do you all
governance
believe? That's what I'm
risks, right?
asking.
That's
So
why
what is the position of the
cronyism, etc.
NPP?
That's why the government.
Do
should
you
not be
think
in
the
business.
And the
government
JVP.
should be?
Can I respond to this
Yes,
question?
please, yes.
in
There are two
detail?
parties involved.
Yeah.
So if you look at when you say should the government be involved in certain businesses, right?
Not business overall.
In any business.
In any business.
So I mean, if you look at the economies in around the world, governments in every country are involved in businesses, right? So if you look at the fastest growing countries in the world right now, if you look at China, if you look at India, South Korea, Japan, name any country, you have the state doing business. Right?
Example, tell me.
Sinopec is a state
but China is-
business
China
entity.
is
China
different.
has
India,
over
India.
40%
Tell me
business
India,
involvement.
that's an
In
autocratic-
Germany,
that's an autocratic country,
in
no?
Scandinavian
It's not a
countries.
democratic. No, let's talk about.
What do you mean it's not democratic? Are you saying
Using
China
China
is
is
not
a democratic country.
Are you accusing them of being
No,
illegal?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. I'm not making
is a
judgments on
democratic
China.
country.
China
No.
is democratic
So if you look at the Scandinavian, if you look at the Scandinavian economy,
Authoritarian
if you look at the Scandinavian economy, right? If you look at the European economy, if you look at France, if you look at Germany, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, any country, they have a significant state ownership of the economy. It is not true when you say that the state does not play a role in the economy. In any developed country, in any progressively arranged country, the state does play. And I think in Sri Lanka also, in India, the state plays a huge role in the economy, right? So this Amul that you were trying to refer to earlier, who owns it? It's a cooperative, right? So we don't have to be this very.
It's not a government.
We don't have to know. True, Amul is not a government. So we don't have to be reductionist and limiting in our view of looking at the economy.
No,
and
but do you think
which
the
actors?
state?
Can I conclude? Because
yeah.
otherwise you would think that I did not answer this question.
No, you
We
have
don't have to
answered,
be-
but I have to ask
Yeah.
this question. I can't just these precious airtime. We have to ask questions
Yeah.
when it's required. Sorry, Lakmali, for that. But my question to you is: do you think the government should get involved
I
in
think
business?
in any developed country, in any good economy, the government definitely should get involved in business. That has been done, that is going on, and it should be defended against this neoliberal ideology that government should not. If you look at the US economy right now, how much is the state subsidizing the economy right now, right? If you look at the climate transition of the global economy, how much is the state funding that? Look at China. Why is China developing in climate transition?
So, Dr. Mendes,
Because of
what
the
would be the
state.
position of the SJB in terms of doing business and being a competitor of the private sector?
Very clearly, any social democratic party in the world, whether it be in Europe, and if we, as a democratic party, social democratic party, we believe, as I said, in a dynamic private sector and under the state revival of the government sector. And we believe, as Lakmali also said, I agree, that there is a role for the government under the state to contribute in reviving industry. Public-private partnerships are a dominant feature in all social democratic states around the world. And that is our policy. And very clearly, we of the SJB differ totally from the UNP and its neoliberal policies because we do not, under any circumstances, agree to selling off profitable state ventures. We do not. We despise Wickramasinghe's policy on that. We have nothing to do with that. We will never do that. And we believe that there should be equality of status, competition, right, between the state and the government, specifically in education, in health. These sectors have to be revived. We do not believe in a government washing its hands off, like in neoliberal states, Ranil Rajapaksa regime, washing its hands off education and health and vital sectors.
So, Dr.
Harsha De Silva and Kabir and Iran are not talking about selling off
Dr. Mendes,
profitable ventures of the state, state-managed profitable ventures to the private sector.
So does that mean that you all will reverse the work that is being done by the SOERU when it comes to companies like Sri Lanka Telecom? I think Milco was on the chopping block, so was Sri Lankan Airlines, few others as well. Telecom is, I think, the one that has gone the furthest. There's also Lipro.
Selling off, selling, the answer is restructuring. There is enormous scope for an intelligent government with a progressive policy framework to restructure mismanaged state ventures.
Let's take one example, Sri Lanka Telecom. If the SJB is voted into power, will you put a stop to SLT, the divestment of from SLT?
Well, we have never said that profitable, well-managed government institutions should be sold off. Have we ever said that? Has the leader of the opposition said that?
So you all will withdraw from the divestment of SLT?
Of course. I mean, a Social Democratic Party will never do that.
Okay.
We will believe in reviving
being
the
from the
private
SJB
sector.
working committee, we can count that as a matter of policy. When upon winning, if the SJB does win a majority and form the government,
we don't have a Jekyll and Hyde policy.
Privatization of SLT will come to a stop, and also with the others that are in profit. So even with the CEB, which is now in profit, will you all see
mismanaged?
But they're making profit now.
State institutions have to be disciplined and they have to be restructured.
Yeah.
Restructuring of institutions have to take place under an SJB regime. We do not believe, like Ranil Wickramasinghe, selling off well-managed state government sectors.
Efforts to restructure have been made in the past as well and have fallen flat. And one could argue that the culture in the bureaucracy is one of the main reasons for that, because the bureaucracy itself is resistant to change, and therefore Mr. Wickramasinghe's thinking is, if you're not going to accept change in terms that are win-win for both, then we'll have to sell it.
Just because certain bureaucracies are dysfunctional bureaucracies have to be made functional. Inability to make dysfunctional organizations functional is part of, is a fault of the government.
It's a leadership failure, definitely.
It's a problem of the leadership.
I would agree with Mr. Mahim there, because this prompt, as you were mentioning, Sri Lankan Airlines, Mr. Wickramasinghe has been trying to sell off these assets for so long now, right? You do not have buyers for them. Why? Because nobody believes that nobody is going to comment by Sri Lankan Airlines. Nobody is going to comment.
That is because of the debt.
They transfer the debt to the treasury. They transfer the debt to the treasury.
Careful.
Sorry, I'm sorry. So anyway, there's a lot of water here. So what I was trying to say is that this idea that, we can, yes, you sell off telecom, and what are you going to do for the rest of the 20 years, right? How are we going to make this is an important infrastructure. You need investment in it. Nobody is denying that it has to be improved, that it has to be, taken to a certain standards. We need telecom to be improved, right? But you can't just alienate state rights over it, and you can't just sell off these assets just because we have to pay off debt. This is what Mr. Wickremesinghe, he's not, all of these reasons that you are giving here, he's not talking about any of them. He's very directly saying we are selling these assets because we have to pay off debt. And that's a really ridiculous reason to sell off state assets. That's not how we should be looking at an economy. That's like a drug addict looking at an economy. That's not how we should be looking. It is not sustainable. It is not long term. There is no vision for the economy in that.
So, Maitri, now have you changed your policy on supporting the NPP with regard to their economic policy, or are you still?
No. I don't think there is much of a difference, because I was at a discussion with Diwan Chaturanga some time ago, I think face to face, and most of their policies are NPP policies. I don't know how coherent it is with the JVP policies, but certainly with the NPP policies, I mean, we are very much seeing eye to eye.
Slanting slightly towards the NPP.
No, there is not in that way, Samir.
Not in that
But this privatization, I think, privatization, I think we have to think about case by case.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go for telecom, we can remember when it was a department,
You couldn't
we
get
had
a
to
telephone.
wait
For 3 months to get a
3
telephone.
months to get a telephone, right? It was a government-owned department that time. But then they privatized it. I mean, they asked one Japanese investor to come and because of that change, we got new technologies. So we have to think about case by case. But I think hotels, right, like Hilton and hotels, like those hotels, why should government involve in doing businesses in hotel sector? I don't think government should involve.
Government can be involved in providing services.
Services.
For instance, transport, like railway and buses, health services, education, some limited, and electricity and water. Those
Aviation is also transport.
No, correct. But aviation, I mean, that doesn't mean they have to put their political lackeys to run the aviation company like Lanka. Now, if you take successive governments, the chairman and the board of directors of all those organizations have been all political lackeys. So they have just gone and sucked out the sap of those organizations.
So,
and
Mr. Gurunath, the issue is now you have previously served on the board of, or you led a state-owned enterprise as well, if I'm not mistaken, Lanka Coal Company.
Yes.
During some time ago. So you have first-hand experience of the culture and the bureaucracy in these places, whether it's Lanka Coal or the fertilizer company or even the government side of telecom, Sri Lankan Airlines, etc. When you look at it, do you see any potential hope for restructuring via public-private partnerships, or do you think that Mr. Wickremesinghe
my taking is any government SOE can be turned to a profit-making body. Now, I was heading the Pulmude mineral sands, and when I got it, they had money only to pay salaries for 2 months. Within 6 months, I saw that 1 billion rupees was deposited in the account, and they were making a profit of 150 million rupees a month. So the issue of not being able to run these state-owned enterprises at a profit, I don't accept it. But only thing is you have to put competent people to run it. If you have the competent people to run it, then there is no problem.
So
you can make.
But the system is such that will competent people.
No, that's the thing. That is why the politicians should not get involved. You can't get guys who paste posters to run, be chairman of companies and run them at a profit. That will never happen.
So Lakmani Sumedha said that privatization has to be looked at case by case basis. Are you all even looking at that as an option?
No, I mean, because of the state of the country right now, right? Privatization is not the ideal option. I would not, I think NPP also would not look at privatization as a sustainable solution, right? But considering the state of the country right now, there is a certain expenditure burden that the state can incur, and we have to be realistic about that. Of course, we are open to that, right? We are not saying that we should, state should fund overburdening assets to the state, to the people basically, right? Because these are maintained through tax money eventually. So that is not, we are not looking at it in an extreme point of view,
Yeah.
right?
So
but when you
Lakshman,
say that state should not at any cost get involved in the business, I don't see
No, I am not
any
saying
agreement with that.
this is the sentiments of economists who have come on the show, like
Fine.
individuals in the caliber of Murtaza Jafarji.
Right.
We've had Nishan Dimel. They've said this
Okay.
over and over again that the
That's a
government,
mistaken view then.
the government should not be involved in doing business because they should not compete with the private sector in the country. So I just want to ask you, Lakmali, with regard to the thought of the NPP with regard to providing university graduates with jobs in the state sector. What's the position of the NPP on this?
So I think what is happening right now is, or what has been happening for a really long time is that we have output from the universities that doesn't necessarily match with the economic requirements of the country, right? It goes both ways. It's also because the economy is extremely not productive, and it's also because the university system and the economy are not matched well together, right? So this is why with an industrialization policy, you also need an education policy that will complement that, right? And if you have that, you will have, and there are various policies that NPP has in terms of giving access to credit, in terms of giving access to R&D, right? Which will
private universities also on the cards?
Private universities, in terms of abolishing private universities, that is not on the cards. Private universities, which are there right now, will continue. There is no plan to, there is a plan to regulate them. There is a plan to make sure that they are not extremely exploitative, and there are no exorbitant fees on the students and so on.
Because a couple of years ago, when there were
private
medical universities to be established in the country, JVP-led trade union organizations as well as JVP-led students' bodies protested heavily.
I was part of one of those protests.
Right, so...
Yeah,
She's NPP, not JVP.
I was part of one of those protests when I was a university student. So what I want to say is that this specific incident that you're talking about, CITEM, which I'm very aware of, was not a good case of private university by any standard. It has violated several state regulations, and it was established in a very arbitrary manner. And they did not have the proper facilities to cater to medical education requirements.
So, but now you all are open to establishing private universities?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was that if there are private universities right now, we will make sure that there is no decision to abolish.
Is the NPP open to establishing private medical universities in Sri Lanka?
We do not. NPP does not see education as a place that should be privatized.
Right. Dr. Mendis, what's your position?
Very clearly, we believe in a proper regulatory framework for private sector education. Not only education.
Are you all for establishing private medical colleges in the country, yes or no?
We believe in a dynamic private sector. We very clearly, we believe in a dynamic private sector, but not at the expense of standards, benchmarks, quality assurance. We need Jayajavadana's government established the first North Colombo Medical College without a proper regulatory framework. 40 years later, the same government had the problem of dealing with CITEM. For 40 years, no regulatory framework. What type of capitalism is that? We don't believe in such stupid capitalism. You see, we don't believe in that. We believe in responsible capitalism with a proper regulatory framework. You can't just open up, you cannot open up institutions without proper benchmarks.
Right.
SJB believes in proper benchmarks and proper private institutions.
I just want to shift my attention now to Maitri. Recently, President Ranil Wickremesinghe handing over Urumaya freehold land deeds in Mahiyangane said that the judicial power remains within Parliament and reiterated his long-standing view that the judiciary should not interfere with the executive powers of Parliament. How do you view this statement, Maitri? You come in, you are a President's Counsel, you've been with the bar for a very long time. What is your position as a lawyer on this?
Samir, the constitution is very clear. Sovereignty lies with the people, and it is the people through elections who has conferred the executive president with the executive power of the country, parliament with the legislative power of the country, and judiciary has been given the power through parliament separately to the judiciary. So these three organs of government have to operate separately and independently. If the president his actions are ultra vires, the court can always correct it. If the court has corrected it, and if the president is not happy with it, he can go to parliament and change the laws and do whatever he wants thereafter. But there is no way that the president can say that the judiciary cannot interfere with parliament or with the executive if they are acting above the law.
So do you think that the president is trying to twist the arm of the judiciary to fall in line by telling the judiciary not to interfere with the executive powers of parliament?
Well, if he has tried to twist the arm, it has failed, because the judiciary has given two decisions with regard to the extension of the life of the presidency from 5 to 6 years. They have just dismissed the petitions and charged exorbitant amounts on the petitioners for having done it, because there is no way that the president, by doing these tactics, can twist the arm of the judiciary. I think with all our issues, our judiciary is very independent. It has been giving so many independent decisions in the last few years. Of course, there are a lot of other small shortcomings.
Isn't this in contempt of court?
What?
The statement that was made by the president to twist the arm of the
yeah, it can now with the new Contempt of Court Act. I mean, if one goes to see what the exact statement was, it can be brought in under contempt of court. Because he cannot try to intimidate the judiciary by making these statements.
Tharuni?
Yeah, so now that we are talking about the two FR petitions that were brought to the Supreme Court recently, so today the Election Commission was empowered to proclaim the dates of the presidential election. So now that it's in their hands, up until the point where they announce the date of the election, are there any other obstacles that we should anticipate along the way?
I can't see any obstacles, because whatever the obstacles they wanted to put in, they have tried it in these last 2 days, and it has failed. There was another obstacle. They were trying to bring an amendment and go in for a referendum. I think even that has now that will never see the light of day. So we are on the verge of having a presidential election in the next 2-3 months.
Why did you say that amendment would not see the light of the day?
No, because with these two decisions having been dismissed, the court has continuously held to a certain view that this cannot be changed or postponed or time extended. So therefore, if anyone tried to change or amend the constitution and push it to a referendum, that would have not worked.
So Maitri, if you look at the recent developments that has taken place in Sri Lanka, you see the statement that was made by Paritharange Bandara just a couple of months ago, saying that the president should be given another term, another 1 year, to correct the course in which the country is heading. And then we saw today Paritharange Bandara going to the Elections Commission, and he says that he spoke with regard to the elections, and they are now pressurizing the Elections Commissioner to announce a date for the elections. I'm trying to figure out the intentions of the UNP. What is it? You can read between the lines on certain occasions, but on this, you just don't see that line.
I think he's bordering on the verge of lunacy. Because he himself does not know what he's doing.
So, Mr. Gurunath, interestingly enough, Mr. Sumandiran said in Parliament, the TNA MP Sumandiran said in Parliament that this pattern of events and the steps that are being taken seem to indicate, shall we say, a crafty or cunning steps to potentially undermine the people's franchise. Do you agree with what he's saying?
Oh, definitely. No, because we have been the recipients of Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe's conduct in the UNP from 2010.
So you think he's doing that on a national level?
National level. Simple as that. Because in the UNP, as the UNP leader, none of the elections was held in a free and fair manner. Every election which was held in the UNP for election of party leadership or all other positions.
So, Mr. Gunaratne, now you mentioned earlier, there's a Inspector General of Police who has been charged with torture, has been asked to pay fines for torturing people. That's the person now in charge of the police.
Yes.
Can we expect a free and fair election? Even if, let's say, today, tomorrow, in the weeks to come, the election commission calls for a presidential election. Because also remember that the election commission maintains that technically Sri Lanka is still under election law, but the president is out handing out land deeds. There are councils that have been appointed at local government level, given 10 million rupees each, that are basically they're doling out things, which is a violation of election law.
No, it becomes a violation only after election is declared. That is why we are insisting that today being the first day it should have been declared, they should declare it, because otherwise they are indirectly giving the president another 10 days or 15 days to do all this bribery and corruption to win votes.
What the commission said 2 weeks ago, was that technically, because the local government elections were declared and never called off, the country has been in under election law since that time. Since the election was never called off, and in that time there have been these developments which a couple of weeks ago we had a SLFP Central Committee member who basically said that members of his party who are participating in these activities are in violation of election law. So given these obstacles, these sort of conundrums that we're facing, is it possible to expect from law enforcement, from the election commission, from the public officials, is it possible for us to expect a free and fair election in the months to come?
No. But with regard to voting, now we'll say on the election day, now the voting, there won't be intimidation and things like that. That process will take place. It has taken place quite well in the last few years. But with regard to how the election commission is acting at this moment, the way you said, they are not taking any action with regard to that. And the other thing is election spending. Now some of the candidates, their budgets are 6 billion. So much to say there. That's the estimate. So where are they getting this money from? What is the mechanism the Elections Commission has to trace this money? What are they going to do to stop it? So these are serious questions we have asked the Elections Commission. They have not had answers, and we have told them. I have specifically told them, as small political parties or new political parties, if you are going to bring in a ban for spending on election, financial spending, let us give us an opportunity where we can send our policy statement with the ballot paper or the ballot card, which everyone gets before the election, 1 week before the election, with the ballot card to every household. Because if the Elections Commission gives us that facility, then we don't need to spend on TV advertising or anything like that. But main political parties, their budgets for advertising and the election campaigns are 6 billion, 7 billion. Where is this money going to come from? Who is winning it?
Do you think the Election Commission has the capacity to monitor
they don't have. They don't have.
Because
they are not interested even.
Technically, the Elections Department has had trouble even tracing the citizenship of candidates. So if they can't identify the citizenship of candidates, I struggle to figure out how they're going to track billions of rupees in.
They can't. There is a law which has come in They are calling political parties and telling us what to do, but all the big political parties will break that web and go forward.
So, Sumedha, now your leader contested under the SJB ticket at the last election. Is he representing the SJB anymore?
No, he became independent after forming our new
But he was all of us contested an alliance with
Yeah,
SJB. Alliance. It was
Yes,
SJB.
signed an MOU.
We signed the MOU. Even
Signed
my
the
party,
MOU.
all of us contested
he
under
became
MOU.
independent.
So now he's taking independent decisions.
Yeah.
Has he spoken to the leader of the SJB lately?
They are having discussions, I think. They are meeting at the parliament. And they are having
Closed door
discussions.
meetings.
No, open also. Why
Open
should
up,
they
they
have?
criticize each other.
What is the
No, no,
URF's
no,
position when it comes to the chairman of the SJB? Still chairman or former chairman? Still chairman, I believe, Field Marshal Fonseca.
You're asking him.
Yeah, Sumedha, with regard to Field Marshal
but I think
Fonseca.
he has
No,
been. He
it's
has
up
been.
to the
And,
Professor
yes,
Mahim
yes,
to answer, I think.
Preventive
It's something
I-
internal.
I'm very curious.
It's a question of
Specifically
their party.
regarding vis-a-vis his rumors of meeting with Mr. Champika Ranawaka. Have there been such meetings with Field Marshal Fonseca?
He invited for the book launching also, and partly he participated.
So, Dr. Mendes, is the SJB split?
Absolutely no split. It is a very powerful, united party.
There's
And
only
it is
there's only a
by the-
slit.
I beg to differ. Why
There
I'm
is only
asking-
one leader,
No,
right?
No, but so see now,
Unquestionable.
SJB member party Champika Ranawaka is now independent. You all had in place of Mujibur Rahman at that time. H.M. Fauzi came. He doesn't seem to be supporting the SJB anymore. He's
Right.
supporting Ranil Wickramasinghe. Then you have former Minister of Health Raja Selaratna. I don't know where he's standing as far as the party is concerned. Then very recently, Kavinda Jayawardena in Parliament went on to say that he regrets that he supported the online safety bill. Now, I am trying to wonder, Dr. Mendes, please correct me if I'm wrong, just a few months away from elections, what are these statements that are being made by members of the SJB?
Any party member, whether it be Fonseca or Senaratne or Kavinda Jayawardena or whoever it may be, should understand one thing very clearly. That
What
the
is that?
SJB has a very clear policy with regard to media freedom, online safety bill, Prevention of Terrorism Act, all these things. There's a party line. Now, sometimes
Whether you like
around
it or
the
not,
world,
whether
let
you-
me
whether
answer.
you like it or
in
not, you have
certain,
to support.
In certain
That is
democratic
autocratic
parties,
leadership. That is like now that is autocratic leadership. Now you
What?
said in your opening statement you said that you all did not support Ranil Wickramasinghe because he was an autocratic leader.
Absolutely.
Now you go on to say they have their independent opinions with regard to the bills, but they have to draw the party line when it comes to the voting.
there is a party policy. Now,
Okay.
any whether it be MPP or whatever party, his party or Champika Ranawaka's party, members of a party should understand very clearly what the policy of the party happens to be. If Mr. Jayawardena has the highest respect for all these people,
so they vote in favor of the bill first, and then they criticize it.
you see, the thing is, well, I
You're
don't
laughing
want to,
and-
I
you're
don't want to
laughing- no,
undermine,
doctor-
you see,
No, Dr.
they
Mendes,
should
you're
understand.
laughing, but the
That's why
people
I
also
very clearly
laughing
said,
with you all.
that's why I
At
very
you all,
clearly
at
said,
you all.
whether
At you all, at
it
you all.
be Field Marshal Fonseca or Mr. Senaratne, whoever it may be, there is a party policy. The party has taken a stand. Now, if they have taken,
Are you
if they-
for the online safety bill or are you all not for the online safety?
well, we vehemently oppose, isn't it?
So the Kavinda Jayawardena's
Doc-
position.
No,
Dr. Mendes-
you have to ask Kavinda Jayawardena why he said that.
Dr.
Kavinda
Mendes, I have
Jayawardeena is
to-
not in the SJB anymore.
He is in the SJB.
So
and
therein-
he has
therein lies the
expressed, I
issue.
don't know whether the media report has done justice to Kavinda Jayawardena because it could be a misinterpretation.
Dr. Mendes, I
But
need
I'm
to.
telling you, it is Kavinda Jayawardena or whoever it may be is immaterial, right? What I'm saying is all should understand that there is a party policy. whether it be the party chairman or Sirasa or whoever it may be, should understand that
Is
there
there
is
anyone
a
joining?
party
Is there anyone joining Ranil Wickremesinghe from the SJB in months to come? The weeks to come?
I don't think anyone in the right mind will do so.
But there may be people.
After all this,
But there may be people.
But I think Samir knows something. Samir knows some secret.
But Dr. Mendis, you did imply at the beginning
he
that
seems
some
to
of the
be having,
people surveyed
information.
were not in their right mind. So
Pardon?
you did imply at the beginning of today's show that some of the people surveyed by Verite in the Mood of the Nation survey were not in their right mind.
Well,
there are plenty of people
said
who are
it
not
is
in their right
rational
mind.
position.
But Dr. Mendis, I have to
Someone
ask.
said,
I mean,
I have to ask
even,
you-
even in the
Wickremesinghe,
SJB.
in the context of the question that you raised.
Yeah, so
In the
I have
context,
to
I
ask
had
you
no
this
intention.
question though, because at the Aragale, a big grievance that the protesters had, that people still have, is there is a general lack of accountability in the country when it comes to people in positions of power, whether
Yeah.
it's politicians, bureaucrats, law enforcement officials, so on and so forth. But the concern here is with the SJB. Will an SJB government, a party that seems to be unable to mete out accountability to its own members, how will you ensure accountability in the broader once you're in government?
Well, we have as a party on all those issues taken a position
Yeah,
and
but
voted either
when it
for or
comes to-
against.
But when it comes to members who are blatantly in public going
You
against
see,
the party positions, you're not able
in
to
third
have
world
any kind of
democracies-
accountability. It's very
in third world
reactionary.
democracies, across the parties, even parliamentarians need to be educated on fundamentals of democratic behavior in parliament and outside. That much I can tell you.
So,
I
but
may
this
be
is
in
the
the
problem.
SJB,
So-
but
so the- your-
I must
so
tell
then-
you that parliamentarians need to be educated as much as the people of this country. At the end of the day, the parliamentarians are also a mirror reflection of a people lacking discipline, right? They can't just be talking, right, according to their whims and fancies.
Right. So nobody is
If
in their right
anyone-
mind.
I'm telling you, if anyone spoke according to the whims and fancies against the party line of the SJB, I think they have brought dishonor, absolute dishonor to the party.
So, Dr. Mendis, one of the questions that we always pose for the NPP on this very show is that what is the team that you have in terms of who is going to be a Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is going to be a Minister of Finance? We always pose this question from the NPP when they come on the show. So, I'm not going to pose that question today from Lakmali, but I'm going to pose that question from the SJB for a change today. Tell me, what is the team that the SJB has? Just make us cognizant, because
SJB
we know some people with the SJB, because they have already said that their allegiance towards the leader of the SJB is no more. Like individuals like Raja Sinaratna, you know, he is criticizing the party leadership at every interview that he speaks of, and then he says that he has been offered the post of health minister with the Ranil Wickremesinghe government. I'm trying to figure out the team that Sajid Premadasa has. Now, he has openly said that he's going to appoint Harsha De Silva as the Minister of Finance. But other positions,
You know very clearly,
I don't know very
Defense-
within the parliamentary
Defense
group,
also, he has said he was going to appoint
Yeah.
General Fonseca.
no, but now
Yes.
Fonseca is no more.
if any person has gone against the party position
No, but what is
and
who are you
brought
left
the
with?
party
Who are you
to
left
this-
with? Okay, who are you
Well,
left with?
as you know very clearly, all the political parties left in this country, or the democratic alternative parties, we have the largest alliance of political parties. Even other political parties are joining with us, whether it be Professor G.L. Pires or Nalaka Godehevas or Kandima Virakodis. All these people are joining with us for a reason, because they know very clearly, as much as, you know, Professor G.L. Pires had worked very closely with Rana Singh Premadasa as well. He was chairman of the Youth Commission, right, who
But
recommended
all these people who have
extremely
joined,
progressive.
all these people who have joined the SJB are with a clean slate,
What do you mean by clean slate?
are non-corrupt.
You
very
see,
straightforward.
if there are corruption charges, well, it's in the way. Now, you are talking to someone who took all these fellows who bankrupted the economy to the Supreme Court. I was the petitioner of the case, right? Okay. Now, if there are charges against people, the people who say that they are corrupt should be taking them to the courts. As for me, I have taken them to courts and proved the case
But don't
as
you
to who
think?
was corrupt.
But don't you think between 2015 and 2019, these members that you're talking about were taken to courts?
Who was taken to courts?
You don't know?
No, you can tell.
Are you 100% sure you want me to tell Dr. Mendes? What about Dr. Nala Gudeva?
So, have they found him guilty of anything?
So that is same
Yeah,
format.
sure. So it's up to the people.
Integrity, no?
In the
at the end
way
of the day,
people talked about.
It's not about.
The accusation of wrongdoing came from
Yeah, no.
members of the SJB.
The thing is, we have proved beyond reasonable doubt as to who bankrupted the economy, right? You're talking to someone who took them to court.
Yeah, but we have seen instances in which people have even written books about this bond scam also, no?
Yeah, they can write enough and more books. That's a different story.
No, but you're trying to paint a rosy picture, Dr. Mendes.
No, I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture.
Then what are you trying?
People who are there, right, who have joined with us, obviously will be used productively, right? And
Productively to
no one is
swindle
no
more
one is
money.
saying that from the GLP this is corrupt or
No, I'm saying not everyone, but there are
Yes,
certain
exactly.
individuals.
So if
You
you
say
say
productively used to swindle money.
productively,
You said they will be productively used. I'm asking you whether they will be productively used for corruption.
why are you talking like this?
No, I'm
In a talk show like this?
I'm asking you because these are the questions that people have.
I know. Still, I mean, people in a democracy can think in
Anything they
whatever
want.
way they want.
Right.
Obviously, this talk show, you should not be saying that the SJB is going to use them productively.
No,
for
you said
corrupt
productively.
purposes.
You said productively. That's what I asked.
Of course, we
Productively
will.
what?
The people
How?
who have joined with us, we will use their capacities in the most productive manner. That's a different story.
No, because there are accusations against the UNP.
You
as
can
well.
keep
There are
on
accusations
accusing. You can keep on
SLPP.
accusing all types of people.
Yeah.
But you should know that at least we of the SJB took these people to courts and proved beyond reasonable doubt as to who bankrupted the economy. We are not just, you see, accusing people and running away. We don't. We proved
Right.
who is corrupt.
Right. So I want to close today's session. Let's start off with Sumedha Ratnayaka, National Organizer of the United Republic Front. What are your closing thoughts? 2024 election, Sumedha, who would you support at a future election? And I know that you have not made a decision yet, but if you are going to make a decision, what would you keep in mind? Which political party that your party would be aligned to at a future election?
Actually, I already explained that we have forwarded a program, action plan, and we are having discussions with these parties. But Malimawa, their party, they very clearly told us they are not going to form alliances jointly with political parties, and they are asking individuals to come and join. So we are not going there. And our principle is we will not support anyone who bankrupted this country. Already a Supreme Court decision is given that Basil Rajapaksa and these people are involved in bankruptcy of this country. So we will not support, if Rajapaksas are supporting any candidate, we will not support him.
Who are you left with?
So basically, that leaves you with from the current crop.
Yeah.
You're
But
left with
if anyone,
or you run yourself.
Join us.
yeah, we can join in Maitri, and we are having talks with these There are
but
some
basically-
smaller parties. After the Araga layer, there are a lot of parties who, this youth and lot of people form new parties.
Right.
We are having discussions with them,
Right.
and we are thinking of forming alliance.
Right. Thank you very much, Sumedha Ratnayaka, National Organizer of the United Republic Front. I now move my attention towards Attorney at Law Lakmal Hemchandra.
Final thoughts.
Your final thoughts.
So I think this year is very important for Sri Lankans, and as somebody who has been, as a citizen, not just as a political activist, as a citizen, I feel that the election should happen. And we will do everything in our power and capacity to make sure that nobody obstructs the democratic process of the country. And I think it's interesting, I think Najib mentioned Brad Setzer. I'm a fan of him as well. So this idea that we are going towards another bankruptcy, that we're setting ourselves up, this is an imminent danger. And these are the thoughts that are in our head. Like, even if you go for an election, what are we going to do next, right? And this recovery tale that Mr. Wickremesinghe has spun for over the past 2 years, it's not the reality. Sri Lankan people are suffering. People in this country, the poorest, the weakest, the most vulnerable people are suffering. We have more than 1 million people losing their links to they're de-electrified, right? The electricity connections are disconnected. And we have 25% of the country starving, they're in poverty, right? So it's not a rosy picture. What we see as painted in the media, what we see the president telling in the parliament, in his addresses to the nation, that is not the reality of the country, right? Which is why we are confident. We are very confident that people are going to make the right choice. People will vote for change. People will vote for a different political culture and a viable economic alternative to what is happening right now. And NPP is ready to give leadership to that and stand with the people and work with the people for a way out of this crisis for all of us, for every mother, child, farmer, worker, exporters, whoever. We can work together out of this. That is the confidence and the hope that we want to give people. That there is a way out, there is an alternative. We have to work towards it together.
Thank you very much, Lakmali. Dr. Mendes?
Well, Samagi Jana Balawegaya is a party that is not going to propagate hopelessness. We believe that there is enormous hope for the people of this country. There is hope of a promising future if they can learn from the mistakes that they made some time back, not very long ago. They need to understand that there are 3 alternatives in Sri Lanka as the elections draw near. There is the Ranil Rajapaksa, neoliberal, extreme, capitalist, authoritarian, anti-democratic, authoritarian regime. We are asking the people to think more than twice in settling down with a regime of that nature. I don't think the people are that foolish to invest on a regime that has undermined all aspects of decency in public life. Then we also, while we respect all parties, well, the NPP, JVP alternative, well, we really don't know whether they believe in Marxism or something else.
I just told you.
Well, the Marxist alternative has no place in this world. Marxist alternative has collapsed as much as neoliberal alternative. And also, Marxist and neoliberal alternatives also despise fundamental freedoms of the people. You cannot name any Marxist state that has respect even for media freedom. Now, having learnt lessons from extreme capitalism and extreme Marxism, we have a viable, globally relevant alternative in a social democratic Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Very clearly, I stated that we believe in a dynamic private sector. We believe in reviving the government sector under the state. We believe in these principles for social justice, equality, equity. We believe in redistribution of wealth as much as generating wealth. So let the people decide intelligently, because if they make the wrong choice with an ideology, a regime with an ideology that has absolutely no hope, then of course we will be in an extremely extremely dangerous situation.
Dr. Mendes, with your permission, I need to quickly switch to Lakmali because you spoke about ideologies and all that. That was a new argument that was brought to the table thus far. So if you want to respond to any of the remarks that Dr. Mendes made, I can give you a minute.
I think as a political party, NPP does not believe that we should have ideological views towards politics. We should have very pragmatic, realistic, people-centric views towards politics, right? So it doesn't matter whether it's Marxism, neoliberalism or any kind of ism, right? That is not what's important. What's important is what do we need as a country right now? What do we need as a society right now? Where can we borrow good ideas from? What is working in the world? What is working for the economies? We are willing to, change. We are willing to look at options and see what actually works. What we want to find is solutions. It's not about ideology. I think these ideological arguments are extreme because I would say certain arguments coming from SJB are also ideological, like, market works. I don't think that's reality. That's an ideology, right? So I think there's no point in engaging in that view. But I do want to, because this Marxism point keeps on coming up, even though I said that NPP is not a Marxist political party. One of the most fastest growing economies in the world is China. Still subscribes to Marxism. They don't think it has failed, right? In defense of, because I do not believe, as much as I want to be open to ideas, I do not believe this vilification of political ideologies and options is the way to go forward in any democracy.
Right. Sumit, do you want to add anything to that? Because I gave Lakmali an opportunity, I thought I'll switch to you also for 30 seconds to 1 minute if you want to respond, because that was a new argument that was brought to the table and I don't want to lift the two of you out of it.
I also agree. We have to be pragmatic. That is what we also think. But I agree with Dr. Mahim, and it's about the market economy, right? We also think economy has to be a market-driven one, right? But the government has to interfere, and government has to tax the industries and earn government revenue and distribute this among the people. And going with IMF and going with market economy is not neoliberalism.
Right, thank you very much.
That is what we have to take.
Thanks a lot. President's Council, Maitri Gunaratna, you have the last baton in hand.
Thank you, Samir. My take on this whole thing is the main political parties have failed this country. They have driven us to bankruptcy. And therefore, it is time for like-minded people to get together and change this. To change this whole system, we need only 150 individuals to come forward for the next parliamentary election. If we get this 150 individuals, which we are endeavoring to get, we are talking to various people to put this team together. Moment we are able to rally this team together, Samir, we will be having successful people who will be running this country, successful people in various spheres of life who will be running this country, because as at today, if you take the main leaders of these political parties, the main political parties, none of them have run a business. None of them have done a job. So they have no responsibility. So therefore, we are calling upon successful people to come forward, because these successful people, they have made their life successful, and therefore they can take upon themselves to take Sri Lanka to the next level. We have got another 24 years to reach 100 years of independence. At the 76th year, we were made bankrupt. So now, if right-thinking people don't come forward and take this baton over, then they have no right to complain. The right-thinking people need to come. They need to come into politics. They can't run away from politics. Once they take the baton and take control of this country, I think Sri Lanka can be developed within 6 months. 6 months, the country can be put right, and within 2 years, if you get the systems working, we can start paying our loans. Production can be increased, and even in 2028, 2029, we can face the IMF loans and pay all this and go forward. Because we are a very vibrant country. From the tsunami we recovered, from the economic recession we have lifted ahead. From the COVID we have lifted ahead. So we are a very, very resilient country. We can do it, but we need the correct leadership and the proper management for this country. This country lacks proper management. If we have a proper management team running this country, within 3 years we can put this country right.
Thank you very much. President's Council Maitri Gunaratna, former governor of the Central Anova province, as well as a leader, General Secretary of the United National Freedom Front. Thank you very much, Maitri, for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
On Face the Nation. Dr. Mahim Mendes, representing the Samujana Balawegya. Attorney at Law Lakmali Hemachandra, representing the NPP, and also Sumedhu Ratnayaka, the national organizer of the United Republic Front. Thank you very much, Theruni. Thank you very much, Nadine, for joining us this evening on the show. All the very best, Maitri, to find that 150 people.
You are one of them.
I like the way how you put it. I leave you tonight. I leave you tonight.
Already one is there.
I leave 100 fortnight more. 100 fortnight more. 100 fortnight more. I leave you tonight with some points to ponder. Wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principle. 7 social sins in the world. Take care and good night.